Are nightmares a good thing?
We're in a moment of craziness on the planet. There's war and genocides and political stuff in the United States. There's all sorts of really scary things happening that we're all being exposed to every day through social media. So, of course, we're all dreaming of the collective stresses that are happening on the planet right now.
How do we know when a nightmare is something that's processing and is here to help us to grow, to learn, to everything, versus I better call 911, something's about to happen, the missile's headed for the blah, blah, blah?
Treat every single dream like it.
Are you ready to shine? Shine bright. Woohoo! Hi, everyone. Welcome back. I'm Michael Sandler, your host on Inspire Nation. If you've ever been wondering what your dreams really mean or if they're warnings about the future, then do we have the Psychic Dreamer Show for you. Today, I'll be talking with Dr. Michael Lennox, my all-time favorite astrologer, creator of the Daily Astro Alert, and the author of several brilliant books on dreaming, including Llewellyn's Complete Dictionary of Dreams and a brilliant new book, Psychic Dreamer, about nightmares and what they mean for you. So welcome back to the show, Michael. Are you ready to shine?
Yes, I am, Michael. As ever.
All right. I can't believe I'm going to start with this question, but before we dive right into things, Michael, are nightmares a good thing?
God, yes. Listen, dreams are ultimately a mystery, right? We still don't really know what they are, why we have them. We're learning more and more about the brain science as, that expands. And at the end of the day, as we learn more about the science of what's happening in the brain during sleep, we then have to live with the mystery of we don't really know why we dream or what the value is. But if you work in the dream world, as I do, as most psychologists will, eventually we get to the sense that nightmares are valuable. They're productive. They help us. If nothing else, Michael, life is scary and difficult. And we're like, no one handed us a manual on how to do this, right? So when we go to sleep and we have a nightmare and we are processing fears and anxieties and breakdowns and all kinds of changes that are happening, we wake up the next day better prepared to meet the challenges of life. I mean, it may seem silly, but if you escape the killer in your dream, that's a little bit like practicing what it's like to escape your own fears in your waking life.
Yeah, let me flip that on its head, because I had to do a lot of dream work and dream interpretation work after I started getting, and I want to get into why, so many nightmares. And I didn't realize I was having nightmares. I wasn't writing my dreams down, but I'd wake up in the day and I'd feel really, really crappy until I started paying attention to my dream world and then starting to write things down. And then I realized, hey, that's not me in the waking world, whatever we want to call that, because the dream world is the waking and vice versa. But that's what's going on in my dreams.
One of the challenges to understanding how dreams work and their value is that we have a tendency to think of our conscious awareness as like a binary, on or off. When we are awake, it's on, and then it turns off when we go to sleep. But that's not what's turning off when we go to sleep. There's a kind of perception that the thinking mind experiences while we are awake that does go away when we are asleep. And that's actually a good thing, because what that does, Michael, is it quiets the distracted mind, opens up some sort of portal into the unconscious that is not readily available for us in our waking life when our awareness is drowned out by our thinking, rational, waking mind, right? So we go into this place in dreams where we think we're not consciously aware, but we are, but at a more soulful level. So like your higher self, whatever that is aware of your beingness while you are awake and while you are asleep. And so my belief, and I think many psychologists and mystical perspectives would agree with this, is that we get wiser every time we go into our dream state. So if that's true, then there's a process that can happen where the clouded, confused embodiment,
Yeah.
think you before your deep work, visiting both realms, conscious awareness and the deeper connection to unconscious in sleep, is going to be messy. So the first experience one's going to have when you open up to the wisdom that's in your dream world is going to be lots and lots of nightmares and lots of dreams.
So in other words, when it starts, when that floodgate opens, that's a good thing.
Well, yes. Imagine you have a filthy bathtub and it's like, oh God, I want to take nice, lovely baths one day.
Yes.
It might take you hours and hours and hours of cleaning. You might have to soak up the gunk a little bit and get rid of it and then soak up some, you know what I mean? It's a process of cleaning the gunky bathtub. I love bats. I think that's why I'm using that as an analogy.
I like them too. I don't have them in the RV, but I like them too.
So it's the same kind of principle that once we open our psyche to the possibility of cleaning and cleansing and healing the detritus of the unconscious, where all our fears are vibrant and alive, it is through visiting the nightmare landscape over time that we're cleaning out the gunk. So the process of self-investigation in the beginning is usually going to be fearful, chaotic, lots and lots of dreams, lots and lots of material, potentially confusing processes. We've been through them. We sometimes call them the dark nights of the soul. But those dark nights of the soul are also valuable for cleaning and clearing out the junk so that we can have those cleansing, clearing baths that I'm talking about. And so, yes, nightmares allow us to go right where our psyche is saying our loudest no, so that we can get rid of the gunk of that no, so we can learn how to say yes.
I can't believe I'm going to go there then. It's an interesting year. It's an interesting year, Michael. It is. We are in the throes of 2024, and I do mean the throes of things. And it appears, at least on the surface, that we are all experiencing collective nightmares, collective dirty bathtubs right now.
Dreams and the unconscious are just as much a part of our spiritual connection as the lofty things that we think of as our spiritual connection, right? So sleeping, dreams are the realm of the unconscious, and that's a Neptune thing, a Neptune invention. The sign that Neptune rules over, and this will make sense to people, is Pisces, the sign of dreams and dreaming and connectedness and the collective and the idea that there's only one energy happening here. That's a Neptune and Pisces consciousness. Well, right now, as we move through 2024, that planet, Neptune, is at the final 30th degree of Pisces. 30th degree of any sign is called the anaretic degree. It's a sign of mastery, meaning it contains the wisdom of every other degree that precedes it. 30 degrees in a sign, the 30th degree has the experience of, 1 through 29. So we are in a moment where our unconscious collective energy is all, now I'm being repetitive in my words, connected. And we're in a moment of craziness on the planet. There's war and genocides and political stuff in the United States. There's all sorts of really scary things happening that we're all being exposed to every day through social media. So, of course, we're all dreaming of the collective stresses that are happening on the planet right now, which are epic. And from the astrological piece of Neptune at this anaretic, powerful degree that does generate collective experiences, that's why you're seeing a lot of people have very big dreams right now. It's very common.
I want to plug these things in together. Then I want to go to precognition, which seems really important here. 30th degree, we're talking about 30th degree, we're talking about mastery. I'm looking at humanity as going through a massive shift, an upwelling, an ascendance. It's not necessarily easy at this time, but eventually we will come out at a higher state of beingness, which means that this mastery that we're experiencing in our dreams may really be helping to catapult us upwards, even if it appears as nightmares at this time.
I would, in fact, say, unless there are nightmares, you're not actually doing work that's going to free you up to catapult the way you just described.
The big question is, and I'm jumping way ahead in the conversation, how do we know when a nightmare is something that's processing and is here to help us to grow, to learn, to everything, versus I better call 911, something's about to happen, the missile's headed for the blah, blah, blah?
It would serve you to treat every single dream like it meant something.
Okay.
Because what you're ultimately looking to cultivate, Michael,
Yeah.
is a felt distinction between when something comes up that needs your attention and when something comes up that's just a wave of energy that's waving through you.
Gotcha.
Right, so you would wake up from a dream, and if it's a big dream that needs your attention, you will know it, you will feel it, you will get the sensation of, oh, wow, this one needs my attention. But you can't have that level of discernment until you've done a lot of practice with every dream that comes up, so that you can eventually learn what it feels like to have a chaotic dream that's like, yeah, that doesn't feel important, and just trust when your psyche says to you when you wake up, oh, wow, this one's important. So when I was in my 30s, for example, when I started doing my unconscious unprocessing work at 15, I went to therapy on my own steam. But in my 30s was when I started doing the deep shame work and the real intense self-investigation stuff. I had dream journals with thousands of pages and words, right? Because I just needed to offload every single dream that came up. And here, what I want to say about that, Michael, is that's the dream work right there. Just writing a dream down and being with it is helping your unconscious process the stuff. Right. So I want to make sure that your listeners who might be going, oh, I'm in my 30s. Does that mean I'm in terrible trouble? It's like, maybe based on your life and your journey. But the idea being, we sometimes even just benefit by marinating with a nightmare simply because it occurred, and it doesn't need you to figure out what it means. But if you're just responding to the nightmare going, all right, unconscious, clearly you want to engage with me, I will engage back by paying attention to the dream by writing it down or sharing it with somebody. So you eventually learn the distinction of both, when it feels like it needs your attention and when it doesn't.
Is there a time early on in this process? And then I want to get a little bit more to writing things down and back to nightmares, terrors, everything. Is there a time where you go, oh my God, I need to call so-and-so about this?
Well, I would say, again, it's similar barometer, that your barometer of what you need has to come from the sensation you're experiencing when you wake up into it.
Which brings us right back full circle to these collective dreams we have right now. Why are we having so many dreams about end of the world scenarios?
Because it looks like the world might end. That's a very literal potential fantasy.
Okay, let's jump from there. We're going to come back to nightmares in a minute. Something, when I first met Jessica, she told me, particularly as a child, but I still have them, an occasional dream where I wake up and I'm frozen, and it is the freakiest thing. And then she may even see a shadow at the end of the bed, and she feels like, is this like a demonic thing holding me down and about to kill me or something? What's going on?
Night terrors, the idea that you wake up and you're still sort of dreaming and you can't move, and it is probably the most frightening thing that can happen in a human body outside of bona fide frightening things. When we dream, every time we dream, that means every REM cycle, the neofrontal cortex, the front of the brain that does most of our thinking and processing, lights up as active as when we are awake and moving around the world in our bodies. Because we're reviewing everything we've experienced during the day. The brain has a lot of work to do when we are in sleep. It's cleaning out metabolic waste. That's happening in REM sleep, right? Because otherwise, where's all that cell poop going to go, right? The brain has to do it differently than the body does because of the blood-brain barrier experience. But we're also forming short-term memory. So the brain is reviewing everything that we did during the day. And if we weren't paralyzed,
Yeah.
we would act that stuff out. The brain says, all right, body, stop moving. Then the brain lights up. We move through REM, probably only for a handful of minutes. Then the REM sleep diminishes. We fall into deep sleep upon waking, and the paralysis lifts. We wake up. We're not even aware that we couldn't move for 10 minutes
Yep.
because the paralysis disappears before we wake up. That's typical. So it feels like a dream, but you're probably dreaming that you're in your bed. You're not somewhere else in a chaotic storyline dream because you're not really dreaming. You are half awake, half asleep. So now that, of course, makes sense of why then it's terrifying and scary. But we can add a mystical piece to this that no brain scientist is going to talk about, because we are multidimensional beings, but we have a mind that is only based in three-dimensional thinking and perceiving. That's the mind that connects to time. I know who I am, I know where I am, and more importantly, I know when I am, through the thinking mind that responds to time.
Can we program ourselves, sort of like we can program ourselves to be awake in our dreaming state, lucid dreaming? We can program ourselves to do that. Can we program ourselves sort of like, well, Jessica is always telling me when I used to have dreams of somebody going to kill me or something like that. Yeah. And she would say, don't run, face it.
Fix it, turn around, stay. Absolutely. It's right in that sort of direction. Whether we're talking about dreams and night terrors or just life in life's terms, right? One of the best things we can do is lean into something we're afraid of as opposed to shrinking back from it. I knew a guy briefly, and I wish I could find this interview. It's somewhere on a piece of videotape in a box somewhere in my storage. Yes. But I met a man in my travels, in my dream working, consciousness back in the early 2000s, who was someone who suffered from night terrors routinely. He had a bit of a sleeping disorder that he had this experience like almost every night. And a spiritual guy who had a meditative practice and curiosities about having a more spiritually oriented life. All on his own, he had the impulse that this terrifying, paralyzing energy could be transformed, that was not accurate. And so what he did was, over time, since he had this experience so frequently, over time, when he would be in this terrified place, he would kick in his sort of gritted meditative consciousness. Just like your wife said, don't run.
Yes.
That's what he did. Every time this would happen, he'd be like, don't run, be present, be with this energy. And slowly over time, and I think a matter of weeks and months only, over time, he transformed his perceptions to where every time this happened, he was interacting with a shiny, white, beautiful, goddessy, sensual energy that did interact with his body erotically, but in a beautiful, light way. Cool. But he had to push through the terror of I am paralyzed in order to find the perception that's beyond the fear.
That if you were to experience this, even in your mind's eye, would you be going, oh, goody?
I've had enough night terror experiences to know what it feels like. But the one really powerful memory I have of a night terror experience was,
what does that mean?
And it happened the night that, or the morning. Well, I'll tell you the story.
This is Princess Diana.
Yes, this is the Princess Diana story. So I'm in bed. I'm actually hanging out with a guy that I'm dating. It's early, early morning. What I don't know at the time is he is already awake watching television because Princess Diana has died. I don't know this yet. And I'm just in bed at like 4 or 5 in the morning having my last round of REM sleep. What I have in that is a night terror experience where I sort of wake up paralyzed, but then I immediately get ripped into what felt like a dream, but also really just a phenomena experience where I am in a was very Mists of Avalon, very sort of, I'm on a lake. I think I'm in a boat. I'm sitting with very beautiful feminine energy. And I woke up from that blissed out, like like I had taken some drugs. Like it was such a shifting phenomena in me that even though I didn't fully understand it at the time, and I think I do now more than I did then, I knew that something had happened. So that when I then woke up and saw that there had been this sort of rip and tear in the force because one of the most famous people in the world had been sort of murdered, and the world had had like a rip and a tear in the fabric of consciousness. I believe that that sort of zeitgeisty energetic moment
Yeah.
allowed me to have an experience that energetically I would not have otherwise been able to have. So decades later, I now have an understanding of my inner guidance system. And at the top of the pyramid, my sort of lead guide is this very feminine energy that I call mother. And what I know about mother is that she is the one who knows how my body works, how my works, which is weird. I have a very weird practice with breath and body work. It's very intense, and she sort of manages that. And she can sort of say things like, yes, she doesn't give me big, powerful guidance because she's got a really low vibrational energy. The guide that does the teaching that I call teacher is such an enormous vibration, he can't even embody into me. My body's too small for that big energy, so it only comes as I talk. The point I'm trying to make is I think that I met Mother the night that Princess Diana died. I think that that experience was a direct interaction with a guidance that's part of me, but that I can't hear, but I can respond to and is there. And when I learned about that inner structure, I remembered that moment. And to me, they're bona fide, absolutely connected.
So I can't believe I'm going to go there, but why not? Princess Diana was a very, very unique individual. In fact, we've had on, you may have been on his show, Stuart Pierce, who is a dear friend of Princess Diana and actually did speech work with her. Is it possible that Mother is embodying I don't even know the best way, that there is a relationship, that Princess Diana is not just Princess Diana, but on the other side is much more of an embodiment than we realize.
One of the things that has sort of lifted me up about that moment and about Diana and her death is there's lots of different places you could draw a line in the sand and said, colonial patriarchal consciousness died here.
Yeah.
And I used to think of it as mostly like 9/11, right? As an American, that was sort of
Yeah.
the moment, except that when I would think about it in a more visionary way, I pointed back to Diana's death because of the monarchy and
Hmm.
her role as what they called the people's princess, where
Yeah.
it's like she wasn't really a people, she was an aristocrat. I actually know her brother. He's a lord of Althorpe. I mean, he's like these, she was not the people, she was an aristocrat, but she, as a figure, she
Yes.
was the people's princess, which means she represented a feminine energy
Hmm.
of, oh, I'm gonna cry, of healing and
Yep.
care for the world. She held the people with AIDS. She went to the landmine, like she did that as the people. And then the world wasn't ready for that and it killed her. And so I see her death in some ways as this mark of a moment when the world has to create the Age of Aquarius. And in the
Yeah.
Age of Aquarius, Diana's energy is the leading force, not some fringy thing that the monarchy says they have to control.
And it may have been the thrust of the door upward, open, that we may have not have been consciously ready for, but forced it anyway.
Yes,
And so, in that
yes,
sense,
yes.
I don't know that we'd say preordained, but was certainly and I'd never wish this upon anyone, but was an important
Yeah.
event for humanity.
Yes, important event for humanity. And back to sort of your original question, we all have access to feminine, mothering, nurturing energy as an archetype. And my personal relationship to that energy is through this guide that I call Mother. But And that energy is, as I've said, a small energetic, but it's connected to this large, enormous archetypal mother. And if we don't get that mother in leadership and rulership of the world, the Age of Aquarius will not unfold. The Age of Aquarius requires a kind of maternal leadership dynamic.
And I'm confident it's coming and not a moment too soon.
Not a moment too soon.
So on that note, why, Michael, do some dreams just keep chasing us down? They come back, and I'm not even talking about a day or week, a month. I'm talking about lifetime long dreams, particularly nightmares.
Well, we have to describe two different things that happen,
Okay,
right?
please.
In this question. So let's talk about the one that is just the constant repetitive. You always dream of zombies, or you're always dreaming of the tsunami, or always dreaming
Yes,
of
yes, yes.
the apocalypse. So we all have to process stress. Back to the model of dreams help us wake up the next day to do a
Yep.
better job of a Tuesday, because we decompress the stress from a Monday as we slept. So the brain is very economical. It's going to find an image that works in our childhood. This
Okay.
is why so many people will dream their stress dream based on sometimes images of like video games from their childhood.
Yep.
When I was first listening to dreams, like no one was having apocalypse, zombie apocalypse dreams. But now they're incredibly common because video games and the media have created a zombie apocalypse image.
Yep.
Right. So every person, whether they remember their dreams or not, is going to have some standard dream that the brain says, okay, Michael's stressed today. Let's send him that stressful dream so that he can, discharge the stressful energy and wake up the next day.
Cue the zombies.
Exactly. Cue the zombie. In fact, one of my favorite movies is Inside Out. Is a Pixar movie about a young girl whose emotional life is represented by these 5 characters that live inside her. And so you have all of this brain chemistry stuff being shown in a beautiful animated Pixar way, but it's really accurate. And one of the things that happens in that dream is there's this image of a clown that the brain knows, just like you said. Cue the clown. Person's in stress. We need the dream. So in terms of like answering the question from the lifelong stress dreams, there's nothing sexy about them. They just mean that you're in some bother and stress. And the thing to do with that dream like that is when it comes, you get to say, all right, it's not random. It didn't happen just because. It came because you're stressed about something. You may not be consciously aware of it, but your dream life is. And those moments are days to wake up and go, all right. So the other way to answer this question, though, is when we move through periods where we get a regular recurring dream image that isn't the typical lifelong ones, but that you keep coming back to a scary dream, the unconscious is clearly trying to get the dreamer's attention. This is where in my first book, I used to call dreams like a knock knock joke.
It's interesting. Our daughter Hannah Bear just turned 2 yesterday. That's why we're out in the woods here in a forest in Orlando, and we're testing things out for going on the road this summer. So thank you for bearing with us on this. But she has bathtub crayons, and she can use the bathtub as a giant palette for creativity. So you could go and draw this out on your bathtub.
And she's having nightmares. And you're the kind of parent that comes in and says, oh, it's just a dream. It's just a dream. You're fine. Go back to sleep. Well, that's an awful thing to do to a child.
Yeah.
And it's a missed opportunity to have a deeply intimate experience with your child. And by dismissing something that happens inside of them,
Yep.
it's a real missed opportunity. But now you just described something that with your daughter, where there's an actual literal encouragement to be expressive in this way. Right? Drawing. So now imagine she's 5, she's 6, she has a nightmare. You go in. You're not going to say it's just a dream because you know better. You're going to hold her. You're going to comfort her. It's like, wow, you had a really scary dream. Daddy's here. You're safe now. Like all of the affirmative things, but never the dismissive thing. And then say the next day she's still thinking about it because it was that scary a dream. You can be like, you know what we do in the bathtub? Let's do that with your dream. And you get out the paper and the crayons. You say, draw me the picture of the really scary monster in your dream. So now you've just completely reoriented your child's relationship with their own scary internal psyche. You've established a deeper, intimate connection between you and your child and fostered your child's willingness to reveal stuff that will pay great dividends when she's 15 and 16 and not 6 and 7.
Yes.
Right? So there's parents and children just by how they hold the dream state as both sacred and personal to the child.
So on that note, there are people who say, I don't have dreams. I don't remember my dreams. I can't hold on to my dreams. Is this a skill that we can cultivate or practice, being able to remember them, being able to write them down, being able to draw them, so that we can actually do some of this, I'll call it playtime work or playtime exercise?
Yeah, dream memory is elusive. You know, you have the dream, you wake up, you're like, this is so vivid, I'll never forget it. And then, of course, it's completely gone. One way I sort of loosely describe this is not accurate brain science, but it's a vague, loose way of describing this. We are perceiving the visual imagery of dreams with the brain in a very different way than when we open our eyes and we perceive what our eyes are seeing.
Yeah.
So that the minute we open our eyes, the dream world is poof, gone. Even if internally we're like, I'll never forget this dream, but the brain is holding it in very different way. Okay. So that's one of the reasons why and it's also, there's a wiring thing to this. You know, I've met these people who can't forget any dream they've had. They remember every dream they've ever had. And then the other people will be like, their dream memory is so slim, they'll say, I don't dream, which is impossible because you'd be dead. There's so much function in REM sleep, like that clearing out of metabolic waste. If you didn't sleep, eventually that poison would kill you. So everybody's dreaming. So there's a couple of steps to increase the capacity to remember your dreams, and it starts with you got to set the intention, because intention is powerful. So really and truly, the fear of death is the underpinning of everything that is terrifying to us in life. We know that we're alive. We know that we're going to die. That is kind of the definition of sentience and conscious awareness that we carry. And most people are terrified to die. I am not afraid to die. I can't wait. I'm like at 85. I want to go with my Uranus return. But I want to be really clear. When I say that, it means that I've worked through my sense of what my purpose is, that I accomplished clearing the ancestral wound. I'm ready to go. But I'm as terrified to die as anybody else. It's the great mystery. I mean, I know, right? I don't want people to think I'm like walking on water with that. I just mean on a certain level, I have processed enough of my fear of death. And part of how I've done that is by creating my nighttime ritual of going to sleep as a sacred act and not something to be unconscious of. It just means that I am quiet before bed. I think about that I'm putting the day to bed. And there is a prayer that I will say as I sort of turn off the light and close my eyes, which is, I welcome the sweet death of sleep. And my bona fide belief is every time I say that prayer, I am putting money in the bank to be less frightened of the final sleep, of the return to the dream state. Really and truly, I've had enough phenomena to believe and equate that where we go when we leave the body and return to consciousness is something we experience regularly in our bodies along the way in numinous spiritual experiences. And I do believe consciousness returns to a place that looks more like dreams than anything else.
So 2.5 years ago, I think it's 2.5 years ago now. I was riding a bike and got bopped really good by a car, and got knocked unconscious, and found myself in a dream, in a meditation in my dream, and spending time in meditation. And it was blissful and it was so peaceful. And as I came back, and I was in the ambulance at this point, I was saying, I was so peaceful, and I was saying, thank you, angels. thank you, guide. Something that I do in the conscious world. In other words, I went there, wherever there is, and started doing what I do here, over there. And it brought me such incredible peace. And then I did the exact reverse and brought it back with me here, which I believe is what you're talking about.
Yeah, no, I think what I hear you saying is that all of the push-ups that you did,
Yeah.
body is in crisis. So the mind says we've got to let the body do what it needs to do.
Yeah.
I would even posit this, Michael. I believe that we get guided to move in certain directions that would even say something like, you fell onto the spiritual path because in your timeline, there was going to be a near-death experience
Oh,
that if you
God.
didn't have some of those muscles, you wouldn't make it through. So your higher self, years before that, said, all right, now's the time. You got to start doing that push-up because on X date that already exists in mind when you took your first breath, forced you to step onto a path that would allow you to meet that moment so that you could have that experience. And I'll go a step further. Because you're a teacher on the planet, it's so that you could teach.
I would agree with that. And I call those nodes on the timeline. The nodes are set in place more or less before we came here. Those big events, you're going to have this, you're going to have that. And we'll, all the small details we'll figure out later. Since you talked about past, I need to go there. One of two places or both, which is I believe that you used to have dreams that are related to London and a past life. And so you said earlier, clearing ancestral wounds, which may not be the same thing, but I need to understand nightmares and the past, or nightmares and ancestral wounds, or nightmare and past lives.
I always like to start any sort of conversation about any of these sort of big ideas like past lives with the notion of it's a mystery. It's a mystery. And all we can ever do is sort of interpret the mystery, or each of us has a way we dive into inner space and come back with some information about the mystery. So I just want to be really clear. It's a mystery. Are we other people in bodies with the same psyche consciousness as we are in this body in the manner that past would say? Maybe. I certainly believe we're connected to everything.
I'm going to bring it back full circle. We were talking about succubus early in the interview, early in the show. I can't believe I'm going to ask this, but can you tell us about demonic figures in dreams?
I want to start with, I don't believe in evil as a force.
Thank you. Me too.
Okay. First of all, how can there be evil as a force if there's only one unified thing happening here?
Thank you.
Breath it's just life and energetic force, but we can't be breath. We can only be in breath and out breath, right? So right there is just an image of we must divide things into two in order to understand them. We are now profoundly creative in the digital world because we understand the binary of what can happen when you have a 1 and a 0. Now, consciousness itself is the ecstatic, blissful experience when 1 and 0 crash into each other and create ecstasy of infinite nature. When the two binaries explode into one transcendent third, that is consciousness and life itself. Okay, lofty, lofty, lofty words. It only comes out with one particular political actor that I won't mention by name, but like I see this person talk on my social media, and for about 5 seconds, I am picturing throttling that person's throat with my bare hands, which I allow myself to do so that I'm processing my rage at the world and not having it stick and stuck inside of me. So I share this with you because
fortunately, no thought police.
Right. But in those 4 or 5 seconds, I really feel murderous. Like in that 4 or 5 seconds, I want to kill this person. It is full. Now, the minute the 4 or 5 seconds is gone, it's like, oh, right, I'm not a murderer. Right? So, but I present that as a kind of cute and innocuous way that we all must acknowledge that dark, evil, destructive, horrible impulses live inside of us as humans, and that we don't act in those ways because we're good, moral, empathic people. But if we move through the world like some religious people do, where evil is split off and put over there, then a person can only say, well, I'm good, I'm not evil. Well, what's that person going to do with their murderous rage when it comes up?
Oh.
They're going to have no holding for that
Mhm.
because they're pushing it away, saying, I'm not evil. That's the definition of shadow. Shadow means there's something I'm not willing to look at. I'm going to keep it hidden from myself so that I can pretend I'm just good and not evil, blah, blah, blah. So I believe then that it's really important for each of us as individuals to have a graceful relationship with our darkest,
Mhm.
most ugly thought forms and feelings so that we can feel whole and complete. To say, I've examined how rageful I am. I've examined how much I'd like to kill you if you disagree with me, so that it's not hidden and driving me. So that when we have dreams of dark demonic forces, it can be tempting to be frightened of the big dream as if some multidimensional evil force has entered your dream state. But I don't believe that. First of all, I don't think that evil forces like that have free will and agency. They're not like flying around the United States saying, I think Michael Lennox has been a bit of a dick lately. I think I'll visit him. Right? But we have these dark energies in us. And when the dream comes, the best thing to do with those scary sort of images is to just own it, draw it, and appreciate that as a human being. If you don't know your darkness, how can you live fully in your light?
I love it. I love it. Supplements and nutrition. We're going back to the sacredness of this experience. Supplements and nutrition for dreaming.
I want to start by saying I don't take supplements for sleeping or dreaming, but there is absolutely boatloads of literature in this, in science of psychology
Yeah.
that quality of sleep is enormously important for stress relief and integration and having a better life, physically, psychically, emotionally, the whole nine yards.
Yeah.
So from that perspective, anything that deepens relaxation and encourages greater sleep, as long as it's not psychotropic and acting on your dream experience, is valuable. Every once in a while, I'll get hit up on social media. It was like, you should help us sell our supplements. And it's like, yeah, I probably won't do that because I don't do that myself.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say that deeper sleep is better on every front. And so how about that?
So I can't believe I'm going to go there. Masturbation.
Well, I masturbate. So I have a lot of experience with that.
I think
and
most of the world does.
I certainly
From experience.
love the idea that a good orgasm is a absolute sleep inducer. And in fact, out there in the serious world of sleep, being helpful to sleep, orgasm would be listed as a sleep aid.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not just a locker room giggle.
I put it in a college book years ago. I put it in a book for
it's absolutely, again, anything that can set you up for a deeper sleep. Stretching the body before you go to bed. That becomes part of my ritual on certain days when the body feels a little tight. And I know that I want to go into the sweet death of sleep, and a rigid musculature is not going to be conducive to relaxing. So I'll do 5 minutes of stretching. So anything that deepens the sleep experience is going to enrich the dream experience.
What about the reverse? Electronics, or what you watch, or I'm going to call it ingest electronically, meaning with the digital fire before you go to sleep. Yeah.
Certainly from the literature, we know that blue light is telling your pineal gland not to create melatonin. So the pineal gland creates serotonin all day long, and that's like the neurotransmitter of wakefulness. And then what happens when the light diminishes, the pineal gland automatically stops creating serotonin and begins creating melatonin. And that's what generates sleepfulness. The pineal gland also responds to light, which is how it knows to do this. So if light diminishing prepares you for sleep, then looking at your phone or your TV really tells your brain that you're awake and up to stuff. Right? So that's a bona fide thing. Quit the screen time if you're having challenges or trouble with your falling asleep. I'll say this about be careful of what you're taking in.
Yeah.
There are people who will say, absolutely be careful of what you're taking in. I think that this is accurate. One should be mindful of what one is taking in, but I would never say, shut off everything that's dark or scary or stressful because you only want to take in sort of lofty, yummy things, because that sounds scared. And sometimes it's good to get a reflection of something dark. A Netflix show about a very bad man, Ripley. I don't know if you're a TV watcher.
No, but on the drive here, we passed a billboard with 2 parrot heads on it, and it said Ripley's ahead. So there you go.
So yeah, watching the show makes me wildly uncomfortable because I'm empathic as I watch and he's doing horrible things. But it's not like I would avoid taking in something that's about a horrible man who's murdering people as if, oh, I can't ingest that because it's dark, when the darkness in us needs to be reflected as well. But if you're being unconscious about what you're watching and not putting thought into how much of something you're taking in, then I think you're in an unconscious experience where you might be overwhelming yourself by having the stress that's inside of you wants to get met. So you get attracted to media that reminds you of your chaos and anxiety and stress.
Yeah.
And then it becomes a habit where your brain expects a certain bath of difficult chemicals because you're habitually thinking difficult thoughts. And then you're actually addicted to the violent games or the scary movies or the other dark media because your brain wants to be fed stressful chemicals.
Watching that news first thing in the morning with the killings, with the fires that took place overnight, with whatever took place, to kind of wake your mind up would be a good example.
That's right. So it's like if watching the dark, scary news could be thought of as an act of just appreciating the shadow on the planet for a moment, probably doesn't look like doing that the first thing in the morning when you wake up. Right. That's not a conscious of, I think I'm going to be with my shadow in this moment. That's like a habit that you ought to break.
Yeah. So much more good stuff that we can cover. We're not going to cover it now. We're going to send people to get your book. We're going to send people to your website. Where do people go, Michael, to find your books, to find everything that you have to offer?
Well, certainly Psychic Dreamer is available everywhere the books are sold. So we got to start with, if you have a local bookstore, kids, support your local bookstore. It is, of course, available everywhere books are sold, like Barnes & Noble online and Amazon.com. So it is everywhere. I believe you might even find it in some libraries as well, but it's everywhere the books are sold. And at my website, I certainly link to the Amazon.
Excellent. And your website is?
MichaelLennox.com, MichaelLennox.com.
Very, very good. This has been a lot of fun. I know we had some minor technical glitches, but this has actually been... Okay, we've covered a lot of astrology, and the last one on astrology and the eclipses was phenomenal. But this has been my favorite. This has been the most fun. I'm going to use your word, Michael. Yay. This has been the juiciest.
I love that you feel that way.
So any last words, Michael, that you wish to share with our audience, having to do with dreams, having to do with nightmares, having to do with the zeitgeist of consciousness today?
Listen, I say this, if you're not paying attention to your dreams as a routine part of being a better human, I invite you to do that. The world is heating up, and it is, in fact, getting scarier. And our dream experience allows us to face life on life's terms with more grace. And if we're interacting with our dreams, we're ushering in even more of that grace because we're participating in the experience that frees us up to have it.
Woohoo! Woo! So on that note, thank you so much for everyone out there. This is Michael Sandler saying, be well, have fun. Yes, dive into your dreams, participate in the dreams, learn about your dreams, get out your, bath-safe crayons and draw out your dreams in the bathtub, and above and beyond all else, shine bright. Woohoo! Woo! Wow, wow, wow. What a special, beautiful, wonderful, incredible, oh my God, over-the-top, amazing interview on dreams, on nightmares, on what we get to lean into and how we get to heal and come out the other side. How does it get any better than this? Well, if you want to become a mystic, if you want to learn how to play with these energies at the highest level, if you want to learn how to do the dance from a higher level than just this earthbound perspective, come join me and come join your new mystical friends for Wednesdays every single month. Join the School of Mystics. We've got a link down in the description below. How does it get any better than that? Come join our School of Mystics. If you want to learn how to channel, if you want to learn how to hear from the other side, whether that's loved ones, whether that is your angels, your guides as well, mother as we call it, or as Dr. Michael Lennox we call it. Join me and learn automatic writing live. I have live classes once every single month. You can simply go to this link down below, automaticwriting.com. Super simple and easy to learn and a complete and total life changer. And if you simply want to bring your energy up, way up on a daily basis, click that link down below for dailywoohoo.com. It's daily, daily, woohoo, dailywoohoo.com, where I write an automatic writing, an attunement, a story, an expression, a pithy statement, something to bring your energy up just by reading it each and every day. That's dailywoohoo.com. And last but not least, here's a link to the next amazing show. Love you so, so much. How does it get any better than this? And oh yeah, keep on shining bright. Woohoo! Lots of love, lots and lots of love, and sweet dreams.